Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin the seminar, I'd like to make a couple of announcements. For those joining us offline, if you finish your presentation, please turn off your microphone and please make sure that your microphone is off after your presentation so that your next speaker can take over the microphone. And for those joining us online, please make sure that leave your monitor turned off during the opening ceremony so that we can watch what's going on during the opening ceremony. And for those joining us offline on the floor, you may want to use the receivers on the table. We are providing simultaneous translations. So you can pick up the receiver and set the channel to number 1 for Korean and to number 2 for English. And online participants, you can find the globe icon on your lower side of your monitor or some 3 points. Please click on that menu and select your preferred language. And the proceeding of this seminar will be provided via the link on the chatting box. So if you're joining us online, please click the link and you can download the PPT files for this seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my fellow scholars and participants from online and offline, I'd like to welcome all of you. I'm Professor Kim Dong-yeop of KAIS of Busan University of Foreign Studies. Welcome to 2021 Year of Korea-Mekong Exchange. This seminar will be a chance to reflect upon the past development of Korea-Mekong and will be a great chance to further expand our cooperation. Before we begin our seminar, I'd like to welcome Mr. Jung Jin-woo, who will explain us about the emblem of this seminar. Please.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs is celebrating the anniversary of a Korea-Mekong cooperation, and in the part of the celebration, we've chosen the emblem. And later, the second half of last year, we had a contest for the Korea-Mekong cooperation, and this is the winning emblem. And this was provided by a Thai citizen residing in Korea. This symbolized the integration and unity and harmony. And you can see the different colors, and that represents different countries' flag. And this can indicate the harmony and the unity among Korea and the Mekong countries. This emblem will be shared from this seminar today, and we will utilize widely after all. And I urge all the participants for interest and support for our new emblem. Thank you. Thank you. Now let us begin 2021 seminar for commemorating the 10th anniversary of Korea-Mekong Cooperation. And first of all, I would like to invite Director Bae Yang-soo of KAIS.
Good morning, distinguished officials, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kim Gun, President of Busan University of Foreign Studies, and all the participants, scholars, and distinguished guests from home and abroad. I'd like to welcome all of you to academic seminar for commemorating Mekong-ROK Exchange Year 2021. This seminar has been hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and BUFS. This seminar will mark the 10th anniversary of the Mekong-ROK cooperation and the year of Mekong-Korea exchange, and will be a venue to retrospect the past achievements and to discuss future directions for Mekong-ROK cooperation. In addition, this seminar will be a platform to explore ways to promote mutual understanding and expand exchanges in line with the Mekong-ROK strategic partnership proclaimed at the second Mekong-ROK Summit held on November 13th, 2020. Based on the abundant labor force and water resources, the Korean government has been seeking ways to promote economic cooperation with Mekong countries, which show a high economic growth rate in Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Cambodia. Amid the changing conditions due to the COVID-19, this seminar will serve as a great chance for us to expand our cooperation with this region. Lastly, we'd like to extend my special thanks to Mr. Park Jae-kyung, Deputy Director of ASEAN and Southeast Asian Affairs Bureau at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I'm especially grateful to scholars from Mekong Region and all the officials. I do hope that this seminar will produce plentiful academic results. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Deputy Minister Kim Gun of the Foreign Affairs for his welcoming remarks. President Kim Hong-gu of Busan University of Foreign Studies and the Director Bae Yang-soo, Secretary General Kim Hae-young, esteemed guests. This year, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of Korea-Mekong Cooperation and the year of Korea-Mekong Exchange. Today, we have this conference as the beginning of celebrating our relations, and I am furthermore grateful for these opportunities, and I am honored to be here to present in front of you. In 2011, we started the mutual cooperation, and we've had the threefold trade volume. And despite COVID-19, last year still, we've achieved $83.2 billion. Between Korea and the 5 Mekong countries are moving forward. In 2019, we've had the Mekong-ROK summit in 2019, and through that summit, we try to set the milestone for the community, for people in our region. And we've upgraded our relation as strategic relations between Korea and ROK. And from 2013, we've had provided the fund for such cooperation. Water management and smart tourism and other 18 areas are vibrantly cooperating between the countries. And 20% of the Korea's ODA is already invested in our cooperation. However, the region is facing a lot of challenges at the moment. We have some development gaps and unstable political issues. Ecosystem is disrupted, and we are facing a lot of challenges, as mentioned. Along with the Mekong countries, Korea would like to strive and move forward for the bright future. In particular, HR management, infrastructure, ICT, expansion, vision integration, and other priority areas will be more focused in the years to come. President Moon Jae-in, through the Mekong-ROK Summit, has expressed his vision to expand the fund and the cooperation ODA, and accordingly, for infrastructure projects, we want to enhance the connectivity while narrowing the gap in development, and that's our goal for the future projects. Also, the Center for Water Management, jointly done by Korea and Mekong countries, will review more climate change issues and environmental issues to help rural areas. Also, vocational training and high education will be supported by Korean government in the era of the fourth industrial revolution in order to nurture the future talents for both parties. Also, in health and disinfection activities, we need a cooperation. Recently, we've provided related services in Laos and Cambodia. Another topic is about Myanmar. It's unfortunate that we've seen some unstable political situation in Myanmar. But to recover the democracy in the country, Korea will help further and stand together. Now we are entering into a new era of the mutual cooperation between Korea and Mekong countries. Through these opportunities, I hope that we can remind us of how important our cooperations are among all the citizens through academic activities and cultural exchanges. So through this seminar, I hope we can set up some milestone and the directions between Korea and Mekong countries, and I hope your insight to see at this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite President Kim Hong-gu of Busan University of Foreign Studies. His Excellency Kim Gun, Deputy Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Korea, Secretary General Kim Hae-young of ASEAN Korean Center, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen joining us via online and offline. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the ASEAN Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Korean Institute of ASEAN Studies of BUFS, and the Korean Association of Southeast Asian Studies for organizing this meaningful seminar. Taking place under the theme of strengthening future-oriented Korea-Mekong strategic partnership, this 2021 seminar for commemorating the 10th anniversary of Korea-Mekong cooperation is especially meaningful to me. Before I became the president of my university, I had stressed the importance of Korea-Mekong cooperation to many people as a scholar who studies Southeast Asia. Looking back, I conducted a joint study on the structure of the cooperation in the Mekong region in 1997, when few understood the concept of Mekong in Korea. This was the first project to be financed by the Ministry of Education in Korea. I'm deeply happy that Korea-Mekong ties was officialized with the foreign ministerial meeting in 2011 and expanded into summit since 2019. At the second summit last year, Korea-Mekong relationship was upgraded into strategic partnership. I'm greatly honored to be here as we celebrate the year of Korea-Mekong exchange, which marks the 10th anniversary of Korea-Mekong relationship. I believe that the Korean government's new Southern policy is expanding the scope of our diplomacy beyond the structure which had been tilted toward the four major Northeast Asian countries. In particular, given that ASEAN accounts for the second largest and the largest shares in terms of foreign trade and human exchange, respectively, ASEAN is a critical region and our diplomatic friend we must cooperate with amid the fierce dominance competition among the powerhouses and worsening uncertainties. In ASEAN, Mekong region is home to Vietnam and Thailand, the two major countries in Korea-Mekong region ties. This region is also the small region which is home to Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, which are growing fast. The Korean government has so far discussed diplomacy and security ties in the multilateral framework with the ASEAN, while pursuing economic exchange and development projects under the bilateral framework with individual countries. The Korea-Mekong cooperation relationship is the small multilateralism cooperation, which complements the multilateral relationship with ASEAN and bilateral ties. This new relationship will reinvigorate the Korean-ASEAN cooperative ties with new energy. I have every conviction that this academic seminar will help us lay the foundation for the successful implementation of the Korean government's new Southern policy. Busan University of Foreign Studies plans to develop the new concept of Team ASEAN to ensure sustained development of the new Southern policy, where BUFS, Busan Metropolitan City, and local communities are all engaged in ASEAN-related projects and cooperation. As the largest educational institute for Southeast Asia in Korea, BUFS teaches Vietnamese, Myanmar, and Khmer. We promise to make academic contribution for the development of Korea-Mekong relationship and provide educational foundation to that end. Finally, I'd like to wish all of you the success of this seminar and look forward to your active participation and discussion to lay the academic foundation for the Korea-Mekong relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Secretary General Kim Hae-yong of ASEAN Korea Center for his congratulatory remarks. President Kim Hong-gu of Busan University of Foreign Studies, Director Bae Yang-soo of Korean Institute for ASEAN Studies of Busan University for Foreign Studies, His Excellency Deputy Minister Kim Gun, President Kim Hyung-jun of Korean Association of Southeast Asia Studies, welcome all. Please allow me to congratulate the 2021 seminar for commemorating the 10th anniversary of Korea-Mekong Cooperation. Due to COVID-19, everyone is suffering in the moment. Also, that doesn't allow us gather together to host this wonderful event. In the era of post-COVID-19, however, one of the critical agenda is future-centric cooperation between Korea and Mekong region. Therefore, I believe this event is furthermore meaningful. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Korean Institute for ASEAN Studies of Busan University of Foreign Studies and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea for hosting this wonderful event. It was last April when I took office as Secretary General of the ASEAN Korean Center. Since my inauguration, I've met 10 honorable ambassadors from ASEAN countries, university or research experts in the field of Southeast Asia, the staff members of my center, and had meaningful discussions with them. In the course of that, ASEAN-Korean cooperation in economy, society, and culture was discussed while finding ways to promote amicable exchanges. In the course of the discussion, I found common areas. All professionals wish sustainable relations with ASEAN countries and future-oriented cooperation. Here, the Mekong region is utmost important. It is not the case of Thailand, but other 4 Mekong countries are the chasers in the Asian community. The ASEAN integration has the biggest challenges, which is development gaps. These 4 countries have widened such gaps, but at the same time, these countries are the driving forces of the growth of ASEAN. And through 4th Industrial Revolution, these countries have a goal, so-called quantum leap. Unfortunately, the entire world was hit by COVID-19 very hard last year. The Mekong region, where there used to be dynamic growth, somehow staggered. Vietnam and Thailand, in the beginning of the outbreak of spreading COVID-19, were relatively well responded. At the moment, however, most countries in the region suffer from securing and distributing vaccines. Also, since last February after the coup, the situation in Myanmar has been ever intensified, and this has hindered the region's stability and recovery. The US-China dispute also played its role to make the region unstable and uncertain. Also, the region's geopolitical and geoeconomic status has become furthermore important, which makes the competition among major countries in the region fiercer. As Deputy Minister mentioned, the recent ROK-US summit also discussed the Mekong region and its sustainable development, energy security, and responsible water resources management. To promote such goals, both leaders agreed to strive and move forward with effective measures. Recently, Also, against the backdrop, South Korea and Mekong countries are carrying out sustainable and future-oriented cooperation. And such Korea-Mekong cooperation will be realized through inclusive development and strategic space. I would like to briefly mention about my center. We have 11 member states as an international organization. Trade expansion, investment promotion, tourism revitalization, and cultural and human resources exchange expansion are some of its major goals. This year in particular marks the year of Korea-Mekong exchange. The Mekong region and Korea-Mekong cooperation needs to gain more awareness. This year's ASEAN Korea Center's projects include Mekong-related ones. For example, ASEAN countries are competitive in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. In the food and beverage industry in particular, companies' capabilities need to be further strengthened to support the production network. Another example can be found in Korean companies who want to invest in and enter the region through the special economic zones and other projects. In this coming October, my center plans to host the ASEAN Week, in which Mekong countries can have cultural exchange, exhibition, trading, counseling, and networking. Earlier next year, infrastructure and digital connectivity will be the focus at the ASEAN Connectivity Forum. Also, between South Korea and ASEAN member states, mutual understanding among the youth will be provided and promoted based on network establishment. And through these projects, I hope we can help stronger exchange and cooperation between South Korea and Mekong region. I hope today's seminar can discuss ever-changing environments that affect Korea-Mekong cooperation. And also, I would like to extend my congratulations on hosting this seminar. I sincerely hope today's sessions will bear meaningful and fruitful results. Thank you.
Thank you. For this seminar, we'd like to have now the photo session. But for those joining us online, please turn your video. And I'd like to invite the participants offline to the stage for photo session.
한국 정부는 아세안과의 협력관계를 획기적으로 발전시켜 나가기 위한 신남방 정책을 강력하게 추진하고자 합니다. 사람과 사람, 마음과 마음이 이어지는 사람 공동체, 안보 협력을 통해 아시아 평화에 기여하는 평화 공동체, 고해적 경제 협력을 통해 함께 잘 사는 상생 번영 공동체를 함께 만들어가기를 희망합니다.
With the new Southern Policy, Korea has been working closely with countries in the new Southern Policy region, pursuing comprehensive cooperation based on the 3 Ps: people, prosperity, and peace. As an outcome, the trade volume has increased about 30% in 2019 compared to 2016, establishing the region as the second largest trading partner for Korea. The number of visitors increased by more than 50%, and the new Southern Policy region became the most visited destination among Koreans. Moreover, President Moon has demonstrated the importance of the new Southern Policy region through his visits to all ASEAN member countries and India in just 2 years and 4 months since he took office. In 2019, the Korean government successfully hosted the ASEAN-ROK Commemorative Summit and launched the first Mekong-ROK Summit in Busan, celebrating the 30th anniversary of ASEAN-ROK dialogue relations. In 2020, despite the challenges posed by COVID-19, the Korean government consolidated its cooperation with the new Southern Policy region countries by taking a leading role and initiated the special ASEAN Plus 3 Summit on COVID-19, providing medical supplies and equipment. Increasing ODA for the new Southern Policy region, raising its contributions to ASEAN-related cooperation funds, and signing RCEP, the world's biggest mega FTA. Reflecting the changing strategic environment and new priorities, the new Southern Policy has been further upgraded into the new Southern Policy Plus, composed of 7 initiatives.
올해는 아세안과 한국의 전략적 동반자 관계 수립 10주년을 맞는 뜻깊은 해입니다. 한국은 신남방 정책의 비전과 성과가 아세안과 한국 모두에게 도움이 되고 있다고 평가하며 신남방 정책 플러스 전략을 마련했습니다. 신남방 정책 플러스 전략은 포괄적 보건 의료 협력을 비롯한 7대 핵심 협력 분야를 중심으로 새롭고 실천 가능한 방안이 담겨 있습니다.
Comprehensive public health cooperation in the post-COVID-19 era. Sharing Korean-style education model and supporting the development of human resources. Promote two-way cultural exchanges. Build the foundation of mutually beneficial and sustainable trade and investment. Supporting rural villages and urban infrastructure development. Cooperation on future industries for common prosperity. Transnational cooperation for the fostering of safety and peace.
These are the 7 initiatives Korea will be pursuing as Korea seeks to build comprehensive and effective cooperation with ASEAN countries and India. Currently, we are facing a common unprecedented challenge. With the new Southern Policy Plus, the vision of which is to achieve a people-centered community of peace and prosperity, the ROK will continue its endeavors to turn crisis into opportunity for stepping towards co-prosperity.
네, 그러면 다음 순서로
Okay, then I would like to introduce the next program, which is the keynote speech under the theme of the meaning and direction of a Korea-Mekong cooperation. And this will be delivered by former ambassador of the Republic of Korea to the Kingdom of Thailand, Mr. Jung Hae-moon. And I would like to introduce a brief bio of Mr. Ambassador. In 1976, he graduated from the Seoul National University, and he entered his career at 1977. And in 2011, until 2011, for 34 years, he served as a diplomat. And while serving in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he worked at Austria, in the U.S. Embassy, in Thailand, Nigeria, and he also served as the advisor of the regional corporation and the director. Also after that, he became ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Kingdom of Thailand, and he has been the advisor to the city of Daegu Metropolitan City. Also, he is now assistant professor to the Busan University of Foreign Studies to provide his insight in foreign affairs. In 2013, he became the second Secretary General of the ASEAN Korean Center, and he has been doing various academic activities and has been invited in various prominent seminars and conferences to share his great vision and insight. And right now, he's a columnist at Seoul Daily to cover various foreign affairs issues. Once again, the theme is ROK Mekong Strategic Partnership in the midst of the exacerbating geopolitical environment in the Mekong Basin region. Please.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm very happy to see many of my friends. ROK Mekong Strategic Partnership, we are celebrating 10th year of this partnership, and I'm grateful to Ministry of Foreign Affairs for organizing this important seminar, and also KAI Center of BUFS. I believe this seminar is very meaningful in that regard. Today, I'd like to share with you my thoughts, and this is my great pleasure and honor. Today, my topic for the keynote speech is ROK Mekong Strategic Partnership in the midst of the exacerbating geopolitical environment in the Mekong Basin region. I believe this title captures what's going on around the world currently. I have about 7 items to speak about today. The first is why Mekong region is gaining tremendous attention from around the world. Second, how the ROK Mekong partnership has evolved since 2016, and third and fourth are major achievements of the first inaugural and the second Mekong-ROK summit. As you all know, the first and second Mekong summit announced the joint declaration. Last year, that joint declaration was not made. So this shows that we are placing emphasis on Mekong region. And this Mekong region, the bilateral structure is very active these days. So I'd like to touch upon the cooperation with the existing major bilateral mechanism. And 6, the cooperation with existing multilateral regional mechanisms, which are led by some initiatives led by Thailand or GMA and some other initiatives. Those and the status of our cooperation with those multilateral structure. And the 7th is kind of new approach. The regional countries are rushing to Mekong region. It may sound a little exaggerated, but the Mekong region is attracting the development projects from across the world. As I studied, about 10 countries around the world are rushing to the Mekong region for development, their own development projects with their own brand. So Mekong region is the stage for the development project from major countries. So I'd like to touch upon the status of those competition for development in the region. And finally, there are many policy initiatives between Korea, Mekong, and between many other countries. Then how can we create a synergy via those initiatives? As you can see in this map, the left one is the Mekong River from Tibet and runs through 5 countries and end up in the South China Sea. And the right one is the continental Asia and ocean Asia, which is largely divided into 2, which is mainland Asia and the insular region, as they are called. But these days we are using the term maritime region. But first, why Mekong region is gaining tremendous attention from around the world? I'd like to touch upon some key points. This region is the geostrategic location linking the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And this river is the main scene of worsening strategic competition by superpowers. The US and China are engaged in competition in South China Sea, and the Mekong is expected to become the second South China Sea. So, and why is it important? the future of ASEAN, the Quad, and India-Pacific region. The free and open and prosperous Mekong is very integral to the future of ASEAN, AIOP, and Quad. And the next page, the right one is South China Sea. It's very complex one. The Mekong region I hope that Mekong region will not be like this, but concerns are growing, and China is presenting special challenges. In the Mekong region, in the upper region, close to China, there are 11 dams in operation and 8 others under construction. So 11 are already operating. So this has tremendous side effects, especially for normal times before dams are completed. During the dry season, it received waters from lower region, and for rainy season, about 16% are drawn from the northern regions, but the dams are preventing this, so it has large consequences such as the water shortage in the lower area. During the drought, they suffer droughts, and the land and soil, it's blocking the flow of soil, which is very important for farming, and the flow of fish are intervened, affecting the fisheries livelihoods dramatically. And for the shortage of water, it could not cushion off the seawater. So the Mekong Delta region is receiving salty water, which aggravates the farming soil in a great amount. The Mekong Delta region is as large as the Denmark. This is how large this region is. And the extraterritorial river patrols, this means that China is patrolling the river region. And also, China is also sailing large cargo ships, but the water depth is not enough to accommodate the vessels. So they are blasting and dredging the river beds, but this is opposed by Thailand so fiercely. So these are all the challenges posed by China to this region. So Mekong region is gaining tremendous attention from around the world. And another one, this is home to enormous potential for economic growth because it has abundant human and natural resources. The US is basically increasing the emphasis on ASEAN and Mekong region, as we have seen during the summit between Korea and the US. The US is basically working with partners and international organizations and its allies. That is in stark contrast with China's approach. China does not want to cooperate. That's against the China's philosophy. So over the Mekong region, the superpowers will be engaged in power struggle, and which will only aggravate, as many fear. And secondly, how the ROK-Mekong partnership has evolved. In 2011, the Han River Declaration at the ministerial meeting. In 2013, the Mekong-Korea Business Forum was launched. And in 2019, the first summit between Korea and Mekong was held. And the Mekong-Han River Declaration for establishing PPP was announced and adopted. And in 2019, the Mekong Korea Business Council was organized in 2020. The second summit between Korea and Mekong was held, and the elevation to the strategic partnership was held in 2020. And in 2021, which is this year, the Mekong-ROK exchange year was declared. These are the major milestones between Korea and Mekong for partnerships. It started in 2011, so I believe this is a little belated compared to other countries, which are our rivals as well. So we are a little late to take action, but we have won over the support from Mekong Region by implementing projects, and we are receiving good responses from those countries. And the major achievements of the inaugural and second Korea-Mekong Summit, the those incidents between those two meetings was the corona crisis. At the first summit, there was no coronavirus crisis, so we didn't have much discussion about coronavirus. But during the second summit, we had lots of issues surrounding COVID-19. And after the first meeting, the adoption of Mekong-Han River Declaration will lay a valuable foundation for a yet stronger Mekong-ROK cooperation. And the inaugural meeting has identified 7 strategic, reorganized 6 synergy projects into 7 projects, and ROK-Mekong cooperation will serve as the 3 pillars, such as people, prosperity, and peace. And our expertise in development will be shared with those countries. And Myanmar established MDI, the Vietnam established KIST, V-KIST. I believe our Korea's development, I like to focus on VIST. I believe those 2 countries, the KDI and KIST, are the main institutions for Korea's economic growth. So in Vietnam, they established V-KIST, and they invited the Korean gentleman for the inaugural chairman for this organization. That's how important they think our experience is. And the second major milestones, the Korea Business Council was established, and Biodiversity Center was established in Myanmar, and the Mekong-ROK Water Resources Joint Research Center was opened in Korea, and some other initiatives and agreements. The Korea-Mekong Cooperation and Mekong's multilateral cooperative organizations, their top priority is how we can manage the water resources. And major achievements from the second Mekong-ROK Summit: upgrading to cooperation, from the cooperation to strategic partnership. The strategic partnership means that there's no limit in agenda. That means virtually all agenda can be included for discussion. But back then, the COVID-19 was having significant impact. So the Korea-Mekong Summit was focused on the health issues and also controlling the infectious diseases. Those were the main agenda. And also, it also involved ensuring affordable and fair and equitable access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines, and also the New Southern Policy Plus and 7 initiative through consensus. And once we overcome the coronavirus and for the post-COVID era, to prepare for that era, Korea and Mekong, how Korea and Mekong should cooperate was another agenda. But for that, to that end, the stable flow of people is very important. So we also discussed mutual fast track to ensure that businesses and people can freely and quickly move across the border. And for water resources management, we signed MOU on water resources management and Korea Mekong cooperation and Mekong River exchange was discussed. But for MRC, I'd like to touch upon about MRC later on. And Korea Mekong Cooperation Fund and ODA were signed. And the fifth bullet, the existing major bilateral mechanisms. I have listed the major points. The U.S. Mekong Partnership, the Lower Mekong Initiative it was launched about 10 years ago. It was about 2009 during the Clinton administration, but it was administration. So it was upgraded to U.S. Mekong Partnership. And there is also Friends of Mekong. We are also part of the Friends of Mekong initiative. Not just 6 countries and ADB is a part of these mechanisms. Their aim is to increase the Commission of Mekong Region and coordinating the interest between the parties. And Japan-Mekong Strategic Partnership. Japan is investing heavily in Mekong Region since the Second World War. And LMC as well, or MGC. MLC means Lanchang Mekong Cooperation. Lanchang means Mekong in Chinese language. It was launched in 2014, and it's foreign ministerial mechanism. And MGC is Mekong Ganga Cooperation, initiative with India. And Australia is focusing on Southeast Asia very much. Australia is one of the countries that we can draw inspiration from. And Australia also has one ASEAN program and will expand. We hope to expand cooperation with Australia in the coming years. And here, the existing multilateral regional mechanisms. The multilateral cooperative mechanisms goals are to create synergy. Take a look at MRC. It involves 4 countries, 4 member states. Myanmar and China are the direct partner for MRC. So MRC, it shows that China's desire to have ultimate decision-making power for itself. MRC serves as a regional platform for water diplomacy, and it's the knowledge hub for water resources and sustainable development. But how about Korea? We are working with KMCRC and MRC. We signed MOU. And China has 11 dams in the upper Mekong River. So it is in conflict with MRC in a sense. So China is kind of in conflicts with MRC. It's hard for China to fully cooperate with MRC. And for ECMEX represents the name of the river in Myanmar and Thailand. Thailand is relatively more economically advanced in this region. So Thailand is one of the main drivers in this region. So the ECMEX was launched recently, which is gaining attention. Its main goal is to narrow the development gap between those 5 countries and pursue regional prosperity. So by doing this, it promises to upgrade the added value of ASEAN. Korea is one of the development partner for ECMEX. ECMEX has many countries as member countries for ECMEX. The GMS, which means Greater Mekong Sub-Region Economic Cooperation, is a little different because China is one of the GMS. The Unnam province and other autonomous region is part of the GMC, and GMS also has Economic Corridor Forum, which was established in 2008. To the north, the Kunming and the Kwanso, the autonomous region, the beachhead of China to the southern region. Do you know the Mekong Institute? Mekong Institute is, in a sense, the intergovernmental organization and think tank for GMS. It operates Korea Mekong Cooperative Fund. It manages the fund, and we are the development partner for GMS, Mekong Institute, which is very important to us. There is Konkan in the northern Thailand. The 7th point, I believe this could be a little interesting, but this is my kind of new approach. The regional countries, they want to engage with continental Southeast Asian region. How about take a look at these new trends? The 3 powers, the US, Japan, and Korea, they are very conspicuous in their advancement into the Mekong region. And the US and China, not just US and China, Japan, Australia, India, and Korea are all striving to have more influence in the Mekong region. Why is this happening now? China wants to set the rules, its own rules through LMC, and those 3 countries, Korea, Japan, and Korea, those 3 countries, their cooperative strategic outcomes seem to be harmonized by accident, but actually they are not. Their mechanism and policies are separate, but those 3 countries' policies, strategic outcomes seemingly are harmonized. And China initiated its own institution, LMC, in 2015. It has secretariat in Beijing. The LMC stresses the 3+5 cooperation framework, and it stresses the 3 cooperation pillars and 5 other key priority areas. And do you know AIIB? LMC is compared to AIIB. AIIB was launched in 2016. Just like with its creation of AIIB, China created the LMC to protect and advance itself, as it provides China with leverage in international politics. It means the LMC is very important. This shows how important LMC is to China. And the LMC is alike. This is merely a reflection of the intense power rivalry. And the US, FOIP, free, open, and in India and Pacific. This is the approach philosophy for the US. In 2009, the US began re-engagement with the sub-region of Mekong. And for the US, China's growing power and influence was the source of concern to the US. So US initiated the Lower Mekong Initiative, which is LMI, in 2009, and also formed the Friends of the Mekong Group. And in September 2020, the US upgraded LMI to US Mekong Partnership. Basically, the US realizes the strategic importance of Mekong Region, and in September 2009, it upgraded the initiative to strategic partnership to cope with the COVID-19 and to restore the sovereignty and economic prosperity, how they can respond to those issues. Those are the concerns for the US. And more importantly here, the LMI provides a platform to bring in Japan, Republic of Korea, and other stakeholders to collaborate on joint projects. So basically, they want to work with allies. If they work with those allies, they expect the multiplier effect. I believe this is good for us as well, because Korea, we can help the region to assess the drought pattern in the Mekong region, around the Mekong region. And Japan is providing funds for GREED project, and for Thailand, we can help build remote regions, build their farming capacity. And for Japan has been long investing in the region since the end of the World War II from ATB. For Mekong, Japan has been an essential partner. Japan has long history in this region. So if we are to increase our cooperation with ASEAN, JICA, which is counterpart for COICA, we have to work with JICA very well. Japan has a very great impact on Mekong, so we have a lot to gain if we work with JICA. So I hope that officials recognize this point. Most recently, the US-Japan summit was held in 2018. This is held every year between Mekong and Japan. But in 2018, the Tokyo Strategy 2018 for Mekong-Japan cooperation was adopted. In this cooperation, it aims to achieve sustainable development goals in Mekong. It has the blueprint for the future cooperation. So it wants to work with the FOIP, the Free and Open India and Pacific. Japan wants to work with ASEAN under the philosophy of FOIP, and Japan will also collaborate with ECMEX and Thailand. Thailand was the leader in Indo-China Peninsula, so it wants to regain its glory from the past, and ECMEX should be one of its initiatives to restore its past glory. Thailand is kind of a rich country in this region, so it has attracted many development partners for ECMEX. Many countries are development partners except for China and Korea as well. And Thailand has TICA, which is the only cooperative organizations. So I believe Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, Thailand has human network and expertise on at least on these three countries. So I believe Korea should work with Thailand to to seek our projects work. Multiple effects if we work with Thailand. And the conclusion, the mainland Southeast Asia, especially the Mekong sub-region, has become a site for renewed engagement by external powers. This is very interesting. So what is driving this trend? This trend is driven mainly by China's proactive foreign policy and its promotion of both the BRI and LMC. And the US is at the forefront of this strategic cooperation. It wants to reactivate the LMI to become a policy tool specifically for the Mekong sub-region, and the US action has stimulated and facilitated other major regional players, Japan and South Korea, to strengthen and deepen their ties with the Mekong countries through their existing cooperative arrangements. And the next one, China. China hopes to work by its own. And let me skip this part. So, what should we do going forward? The Korea, Mekong, and ASEAN ROKs, there are many hurdles in our cooperation, but the major ones are the COVID-19 pandemic, the global health crisis. The Economist once reported that COVID-19 upended the whole life. So because of this system, the cooperation will be different. We cannot return to before the first summit. And secondly, as many pointed out, the ongoing crisis in Myanmar. Myanmar is very important in the Mekong region and very important in ASEAN as well. But Myanmar is very unstable these days, and so it's having some implications. And escalating geopolitical competition in the IP. In a broader sense, it's also affecting this region. And I'd like to add one more. The ASEAN-centric multilateralism is coming under fire for its perceived ineffectiveness in resolving major problems in this region. ASEAN is, due to the Myanmar outbreak, ASEAN is struggling with the Myanmar incidents. So the international community is very concerned because it may likely worsen the dynamism in this region. So those four factors could be hurdle and could be stand in the way between our cooperation with Mekong. But we should do something. We should not stay inactive. There are 7 priority areas. for the Korea-Mekong cooperation, which was announced during the second summit. The NSP, which is New Southern Policy Plus Strategy. We have 7 initiatives for this declaration, and the Asian Comprehensive Recovery Framework. Those initiatives could work together to promote our cooperation. Then we can expect some outcomes from by working like this. But how we can usher in post-COVID-19 era? So now, the advanced countries, their vaccination rate reaches about 50%, but in the UK about 60% and Germany about 50%. So the vaccination rate will increase. Then we have to prepare for the post-COVID-19 era. Then Korea Mekong and Korea ASEAN, what will happen in the post-COVID-19 era? But to be the leader in the era, we have to come up with ideas about what we should do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Jung Hae-moon. Ambassador Jung Hae-moon has pointed out the history of Korea-Mekong cooperation and detailed explanation about the Mekong region and the regional strategic interests around the Mekong region. And through this, the future ideas about promoting Korea-Mekong cooperation and his ideas on promoting further cooperation. And finally, he pointed out the importance of getting prepared for the COVID-19 era. In the interest of time, I'd like to invite the second speaker,